The Buddha sat beneath the ancient Bodhi tree, its branches sheltering him from the gentle morning light. His gaze rested upon the gathered disciples, their eyes reflecting eagerness and reverence. He began to speak, his voice calm yet resonant, like the river flowing nearby. A leader is one who sees beyond their own desires, who acts for the good of all beings. The disciples listened intently, their breaths synchronized with the wisdom emanating from their teacher. Let me tell you a story. The Buddha continued, his eyes soft with remembrance. In a distant kingdom, there lived a young prince filled with dreams of conquest and glory. He believed strength lay in dominion, that leadership emerged through fear and subjugation. His armies swept across lands, leaving trails of silence where laughter once echoed. The Buddha paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle upon the disciples. One day, the prince came upon a village untouched by his campaigns, its people thriving in harmony and peace. Curious, he called upon the village elder and demanded to know their secret. Exactly, the Buddha said. The leaf understands impermanence, embracing its path without resistance or hesitation. Over days and nights, he watched as the villagers worked together, sharing burdens, joys, and resources. Their laughter was abundant, their conflicts resolved with understanding and grace. The prince felt an unease within himself, a longing he could not name. One of the disciples, Ananda, raised his hand and asked, "Master, what changed within the prince?" The Buddha smiled gently, as though expecting the question. "Master, perhaps we fear what lies ahead," Ananda suggested. "We cling to what we know, unwilling to release our grasp." The Buddha nodded, his serene expression reflecting the truth behind Ananda's observation and the human condition. To resist uncertainty is to resist life itself, the Buddha said. He began to question his actions, his motives, his very essence as a ruler. He stayed in the village, learning from the elder and the people, understanding the delicate web of interconnectedness. To handle uncertainty with grace, the Buddha said, we must flow like the river, accepting its twists and turns. The river does not question its path, he added. The prince returned to his kingdom, not as a conqueror but as a servant to his people. He dismantled his war machines, built schools, hospitals, and gardens, and taught his subjects the art of compassion. Over time, his kingdom flourished not through fear but through love, not through might but through understanding. The disciples sat in silence, their minds and hearts alight with the images the Buddha painted. He looked at each of them, his gaze holding an unspoken question. "And so I ask you," he said, his tone both gentle and firm, "what kind of leader will you choose to be?" The disciples exchanged glances, some lowering their eyes in contemplation, others sitting upright with newfound determination. The Buddha observed their reactions, his expression calm yet knowing. The seeds of mindful leadership are within each of you. They require water, light, and the soil of awareness to grow. A young disciple named Rahula raised his voice, trembling yet resolute. "Master, how do we cultivate these seeds amidst the challenges of life?" The Buddha turned to him, his gaze warm like the sun caressing the earth. "By practicing presence, by embracing humility, by serving selflessly, you nurture these seeds. Each action ripples outward, touching lives beyond your sight. The challenges you face are not obstacles but opportunities to refine your leadership, to deepen your connection to all beings." The Buddha leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Remember, a true leader walks among their people, not above them. They listen, they learn, they love." The disciples nodded, their spirits stirred, their minds racing with possibilities. Its cycle is constant, yet ever-changing with each passing day. "The sun does not resist its setting," he said. "Water them with compassion, shield them with wisdom, and they shall bear fruits of peace and harmony." As the disciples dispersed, the Buddha remained under the Bodhi tree, his hands resting lightly on his lap, his eyes closed, his breath steady. He seemed to merge with the tree, the earth, the sky. The teachings he imparted were not merely words but a living presence, a guiding star for those who chose to follow. In the distance, the first stirrings of evening began to paint the horizon with hues of gold and crimson. The Buddha opened his eyes, his gaze soft yet piercing, as though seeing beyond time itself, for he knew that the seeds he planted in the hearts of his disciples would one day blossom into forests of wisdom, sheltering countless beings from the storms of ignorance and despair. Another day, another gathering beneath the sprawling Bodhi tree, where the Buddha sat quietly, his presence radiating stillness and peace. The disciples formed a circle, their faces illuminated by the gentle light of the morning sun. The air carried the soft rustling of leaves and the distant murmur of the nearby river. The Buddha began, his voice steady, his words carrying weight. "A leader must balance strength and humility, for they are two wings of the same bird." A disciple named Maha Kassapa spoke, his tone tinged with curiosity. "Master, how can strength coexist with humility in a leader?" The Buddha gazed at him, his eyes reflecting the depth of understanding accumulated over lifetimes. "Let me share a story, Kassapa," he said, his tone patient, yet profound. "There was once a revered general who commanded armies. His victories celebrated far and wide. He wielded strength as his weapon, yet arrogance clouded his judgment." The Buddha paused, his gaze drifting to the horizon, where mountains met the sky. One day, the general led his forces into a foreign land, encountering obstacles he had never faced before. Supplies dwindled, morale faltered, and the terrain grew treacherous. He sought guidance from a village elder, renowned for wisdom among her people. The elder handed the general a bowl filled with water, instructing him to carry it through the village without spilling a drop. The general followed her instructions, his focus entirely on the bowl, excluding all distractions. When he returned, he handed the bowl back to the elder, his pride still intact. "Are these shadows the reality?" he asked gently, "or are they mere projections of our perceptions?" The disciples pondered his question, sensing the profound truth hiding within the simple interplay of light and darkness. "The shadows exist because of the light," the Buddha said. "They are shaped by the flicker and dance of the flame." "Uncertainty, like shadows, looms large when we are immersed in darkness," he added. "But darkness itself is not permanent." The Buddha stood and lifted the lamp higher, causing the shadows to retreat and dissolve into the far corners of the cave. "Observe what happens when the light is raised," he said. His strength now uplifted them, and his humility grounded him. The army, once fragmented and despondent, united under their transformed leader. "Uncertainty may appear overwhelming in the absence of clarity," the Buddha explained, "but it is transformed when illuminated by wisdom. Wisdom and compassion act as the light that dispels the shadows of doubt within the human mind." He said. The disciples absorbed his words, realizing the connection between light and wisdom, shadows and fear, darkness and uncertainty. He gestured toward the distant mountains, their peaks standing tall, their valleys embracing the rivers below. A conscious leader embodies the mountain and the valley. They stand firm in their convictions yet remain open to the voices around them. Strength without humility becomes a storm that uproots. Humility without strength becomes a tree unable to withstand the wind. The disciples nodded, their thoughts weaving through the lessons shared. The Buddha's voice carried the depth of his insight, compelling them to question their own understandings. He continued, "Balance is not achieved in isolation but through practice, through trial, through connection with those you lead, Rahula. The youngest disciple raised his voice, his hands trembling slightly. Master, how can we practice this balance in our own lives? The Buddha turned to him, his gaze filled with warmth and encouragement. Start by observing yourself. Rahula, reflect upon your actions, your intentions, your impact. Strength is cultivated through discipline, humility through introspection. The Buddha closed his eyes briefly, as though recalling a distant moment. When he opened them, his gaze anchored the disciples in the present. Be like the bowl carried by the general, balanced with care and purpose. Let your strength hold, and your humility steady. The disciples remained silent, absorbing the layers of meaning embedded within each sentence spoken. The Buddha leaned forward slightly, his voice taking on a gentle urgency. Leadership is not a role but a way of being. It is the embodiment of balance, resilience, and interconnectedness. To lead is to serve. To serve is to uplift. The sun climbed higher, its rays casting intricate patterns through the leaves of the Bodhi tree. The Buddha looked at each disciple, his gaze carrying an unspoken challenge. What bowls will you carry? And how will you balance them? Reflect deeply, for your journey begins with awareness and practice. The disciples bowed, their hearts filled with reverence, their minds ignited by the wisdom shared. As they dispersed to meditate upon the teachings, the Buddha remained beneath the Bodhi tree, his presence merging with the stillness of the earth. In his silence, there lay the echoes of strength and humility, resonating far beyond the confines of their gathering. The day advanced, yet the lessons imparted lingered, timeless and transformative. Another day, another gathering unfolded beneath the Bodhi tree, its leaves whispering ancient secrets to the attentive disciples below. The Buddha sat in stillness, his presence anchoring the gathering. As the sun painted shadows upon the earth, instead, helped them see their transient nature and discover their inner light. The disciples nodded, understanding the importance of extending guidance and support in a world filled with uncertainty. A young disciple named Rahula raised his hand, his voice steady yet inquisitive. Master, how can a leader create ripples that bring lasting change? The Buddha turned to him, his expression imbued with encouragement. Let me share a story, he began, his voice flowing like the river winding through the valley. In a small village, nestled by the river, lived a wise woman who saw the world with a compassionate heart. The disciples leaned in, their minds attuned to the unfolding narrative. The Buddha continued. The river that nourished the village had grown murky, its banks eroding, threatening the livelihood of all who depended on it. It is born in the willingness to explore the unknown. The flickering oil lamp cast its final shadows as the Buddha's voice resonated within the hearts of his disciples. The Buddha paused, his gaze resting on the horizon, where the river met the sky. Her neighbors mocked her efforts, saying, "The river is too vast for one person to change." The disciples bowed deeply, their hearts filled with reverence for their master and the wisdom he had shared. As the night descended, the flickering flame remained a gentle reminder of the balance between darkness and light. The river, once murky, began to clear, its waters dancing with new life. The villagers, inspired by her dedication, joined her efforts. Together, they transformed the riverbank, restoring its vitality for generations to come. The village flourished, not because of commands or decrees, but through the ripple of one woman's compassion. The disciples listened in silence, the story resonating deeply within their hearts. The Buddha turned to Rahula, his voice steady yet tender. A conscious leader acts like the wise woman, planting seeds of change, trusting in the unseen ripples of their actions. They lead by example, not through force, but through integrity and conviction. The lotus teaches us to rise above challenges, to embrace life's impermanence without attachment or aversion. A strong wind suddenly rippled the pond's surface, bending the lotus stems and sending waves across the once still water. Each action, no matter how small, carries the potential to uplift or to harm. The Buddha gestured toward the river visible in the distance, its waters reflecting the golden hues of the setting sun. A river does not choose where its ripples travel, but it can ensure its waters remain pure and life-giving. Similarly, a leader cannot control the farthest reaches of their influence but can root their intentions in wisdom and compassion. The disciples exchanged glances, their thoughts weaving through the layers of wisdom imparted. The Buddha's voice softened, drawing them further into the circle of his teachings. Lasting change arises not from the forceful imposition of will, but from the gentle cultivation of understanding and trust. A leader walks with their people, learning from them, growing alongside them. A senior disciple named Maha Kassapa raised his voice, his tone filled with earnestness. Master, what if the ripples meet resistance or are misunderstood? The Buddha regarded him with patience, as though he had anticipated the question. Resistance is a natural part of transformation. Maha Kassapa, it reflects the complexity of existence and the diversity of perspectives. He continued, his tone imbued with a quiet resolve. When met with resistance, a leader must pause, listen, and adapt, for even the strongest river adjusts to the rocks in its path. Misunderstanding offers an opportunity to refine one's communication, to bridge gaps, and to strengthen connections. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that danced upon the earth. To face them with grace is to discover true strength. The disciples nodded, their minds gradually absorbing the profound wisdom in the Buddha's analogy of the lotus and the storm. She embodied her vision through action, inspiring others through her example. A leader's actions speak louder than their words, resonating long after their voice falls silent. The disciples remained still, the weight of the teachings settling upon their spirits. The Buddha's gaze encompassed them all, his expression a blend of gravity and encouragement. Reflect upon the ripples you create with each thought, word, and action. What seeds are you planting? And what fruits will they bear? The disciples bowed, their hearts and minds alight with the wisdom shared. Their spirits stirred to embrace the challenge of conscious leadership. As they dispersed to meditate upon the teachings, the Buddha remained beneath the Bodhi tree, his presence merging with the stillness of the earth. In his silence, there lay the echoes of timeless truths, resonating far beyond the boundaries of time and space. The ripples he created continued to flow, touching lives unseen, carrying the essence of his teachings into the infinite. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.